What is going on, Detroit Tigers fans, and happy opening day. Spring has sprung, baseball is back, and all is right with the world again. The corner's coming at you twice a week now. We're going to trim it down just a little bit. So it's going to be about 15-minute videos hitting on the hardest news, the best coverage that you're going to find in the Metro Detroit area with yours truly, AJ Reilly. Now, make sure that you have liked and subscribed to our YouTube channel by pounding that bell so that you get notified whenever our content drops. Here's what we got on tap tonight. We are going to look at the offseason and kind of revisit it a little bit in the blueprint that I laid out way back when. See how much of that was true, how much of that wasn't true. Then we're going to also talk about 5 bold predictions for the 2023 season. I am ready to go. I know you're ready to go. So let's get after it.
Here's a pitch on the way. He swings and fouls it off, and the man from Walla Walla will take that one home. Swing, there's a drive to left. That one is long gone.
Now, I might have been a small part of your life, but you've been a very large part of mine. And it's my privilege and honor to share with you the greatest game of all.
All right, we are ready to get going, and let's look at the offseason. It was a relatively quiet offseason, but we laid out some blueprints for you guys, and we said if the Tigers want to be successful and if they want to turn this thing around with new president of baseball operations, Scott Harris, then there's certain things that needed to happen, and you saw a lot of that, a lot of roster purging happening, which is a good thing. There's a lot of new faces on this team, a lot of new faces that are going to be making you flip in your program a little bit to try to figure out who these guys are, and that's not bad. We saw it in spring training, the new look guys. Nick Maton had a great spring training, hit the ball hard, hit the ball deep a few times as well, and then also we saw those younger guys, Parker Meadows, Andre Lipsius, who should be challenging for a roster spot here pretty soon, but that's to come. Let's look at that offseason blueprint that we had laid out. And the very first one that I put out there, I said they've got to get rid of players that are just not being productive. And I gave 10 players that they needed to get rid of in order to clear spots for maybe some younger guys or the potential free agents that they could bring in, which they didn't really bring in, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. But they did make a lot of waiver claims, and they created a lot of competition in spring training. Well, I laid out 10 guys that they needed to just cut from the roster. 8 of them I got right. Jamer Candelario, Victor Reyes, Josh Lester, Brian Garcia, Daz Cameron, Willie Castro, and I also suggested that they traded Gregory Soto, which they did. And it came true. They got a nice return. Matt Vierling and Nick Maton are going to be studs on this up-and-coming team. And I really am excited about the 2023 season because a page has turned. A new chapter is going to be written. We're no longer going to have to deal with the sins of Al Avila, and we shouldn't cast those sins on Scott Harris as well. So they did cut those guys, and they got rid of some people. They did keep Zach Short around, who they just optioned down to the minors. They did keep Jose Cisnero around, who I had suggested cutting just because of his age, which I understand. Like, it's really not cool to pull the age card. But I did because Scott Harris wanted to get younger, and he wanted to give innings and at-bats to those younger players. And they're going to get them. The other blueprint that we wrote, though, was about free agents. We had a dream list of free agents, which none of them came true. And then we had realistic free agents, which, again, none of them came true. Why? Because they didn't sign any free agents. And that left a lot of people scratching their heads. Like, why is Scott Harris not making the moves to maybe go get a Carlos Correa or to go get a Dansby Swanson or even a Brandon Drury or somebody like that in the offseason. And it made sense to a certain regard that there's no reason to go and make a big splash signing 4 months onto a job, because then you're tied to that contract. You really have to be able to see with your eyeballs and make an evaluation with the people that you've brought in to your front office to make sure of what you have. And in a lot of ways, that's what this season is. 2023 is going to be a season of hope. Not necessarily for wins in 2023, but there will be wins. But what we're looking at is evaluation. What do we have and what do we need? And you're going to see that kind of play out. You're going to see players playing all over the field because they have a lot of versatility. Excuse me. You're going to see the roster turn over a couple of different times because there's going to be opportunities created for people who are in the system. A vet's not performing, there's a good chance they may get DFA'd or traded. And we will talk about that too. But I'm telling you, as Tigers fans, and this might be maybe the first time in a long time that the best baseball fans in America, Detroit Tigers fans, those faithful, faithful fans, are fed up with their hometown team. And I get it. Totally get it. You don't want to endure another losing season. You don't want to sit there and try to escape reality in a baseball game that's now moving quicker because of the pitch clock and watch bad baseball. Totally understand. And you shouldn't have to. But I'm going to say this one time in 2023. Just be patient. Just be patient. Let Scott Harris work. Now, if the trajectory doesn't keep going up after 2023, then yeah, you have every reason to be upset and be frustrated. But this is a fresh slate. This is a blank page for Scott Harris to start writing the new chapter of the Detroit Tigers history. And I think he's going to do it. The process that he's gone through and the type of player that he has brought in, even with the trade of Zach McKinstry yesterday, it's one of those situations where you see the type of player that he's bringing in, the type of profile that he wants for this team, and it's going to be a profile that's going to win baseball games. Now, are they going to win baseball games this year? Yeah, they will. And that's going to lead into our talk about 5 bold predictions. Excuse me. I told you, I'm fired up about this season. I love Tigers baseball. I think it's the best time of the year. Even when the team's bad, it's still fun to watch. And so I wanted to throw out 5 bold predictions for you. You can check the article that I wrote on it yesterday about the 5 predictions with a little bit more in-depth analysis on why I think it can happen. But let's get into it. And here's what it is. Number 1, pretty soon, there's going to be a new group, a young core 4 that I am affectionately referring to as the Ninja Turtles in Detroit. And the reason why I'm calling them the Ninja Turtles is because they are a 4-headed monster. Reilly Green, Spencer Torkelson, Parker Meadows, and Andre Lipsius. By June, I expect them all in the lineup, especially with Meadows and Lipsius in the spring that they had. But I'm calling them the Ninja Turtles, number 1, because they're young. Number 2, because I like the Ninja Turtles. Because the Ninja Turtles were freaking awesome. Because the heroes in the half shell saved the day multiple times. And when we are looking for a young group, a young core to come in and save a team, these 4 got it. Yeah, Torkelson struggled last year. I get it. 203, not great. Not what you want from a 1-1 draft pick. But this spring, he's been hitting the ball hard. 3rd in the entire MLB in barreled balls off the bat. High exit velocity. There's some unluckiness that happens because his batting average on balls in play was way down. But Torkelson's going to hit, and Torkelson's going to mash. And that's going to be nice because when he does, that's going to make Green better. And then when Lipsius and Parker Meadows get into the mix, they're going to start mashing as well. And by the way, the Ninja Turtles, they had Splinter, their mentor, right? Well, I got the perfect mentor. You know who's going to be Splinter for the 4 Ninja Turtles? Jake Rogers. Tell me you don't see the resemblance. Tell me that this guy who was a large part of the Justin Verlander trade, he's had his ups and downs. He's been up with the club and struggled and then had the injury and now is coming back and by all accounts is a fantastic, fabulous clubhouse guy. The 4 Ninja Turtles, they're going to be led by Jake Rogers, Master Splinter. That's prediction number 1. Prediction number 2. We're not going to see a 90-loss season this year. I know, you think I'm crazy. StatCast has them at like 63 wins. Pacoda standings have them at, 64 wins. Vegas, I think, has them at like 63.5. It's not going to be that bad. This team's better than the team was last year. And last year's team also dealt with horrendous bad luck. Austin Meadows only playing 36 games. Injury after injury to starting pitcher. An injury to Reilly Green in spring training, which forced them to rush Spencer Torkelson. You can't count on that type of bad luck happening 2 years in a row. And so we're not going to let it. We don't think it's going to. Natural bounce back, one of our writers, Dan Calabrese, did a great job talking about natural snapbacks will make this team better in 2023, and I believe it. Torkelson's going to hit. If Scope rebounds, great. If he doesn't, well, we've got a bold prediction for him too. And that's, he may not be on the team in June. And the reason why he may not be on the team is because he's struggling. He's an older guy. He's an older guy that needs to hit in order to stay in to the lineup. But if he doesn't, I don't expect Harris to ride him out. What I expect Harris to do is to DFA him and bring up Andre Lipsius. Because those are the types of at-bats that our team needs moving forward, is the young guys to get the at-bats, not a struggling veteran. Now, the ideal situation would be for Scope to play well enough that he's tradable come like June. Maybe even July if you have to. But that's the ideal situation. Likely, maybe not probable, but what is probable is if he doesn't hit, he's not sticking around. And I'm okay with that. Because I trust Scott Harris to a certain extent. He hasn't won me over like Brad Holmes from the Lions won me over. But he's gotten close. And that leads me to prediction number 4. Scott Harris is going to leave his mark on the trade deadline. I wrote in the article that the Tigers could be both sellers and buyers if the price was right and the situation presented itself. And I could see a scenario where that happens, where they're kind of holding water until they make the move in the offseason to get their free agents and compete. But if the right guy came available as a trade piece, why not go buy? And if you've got assets to trade, why not trade? Kind of like Steve Yzerman did a little bit with the Red Wings. So bold prediction number 4, Scott Harris, the season begins. His tenure begins at the trade deadline. Let's reserve all judgments on Scott Harris in total until that first trade deadline. And that leads me to number 5. Kerry Carpenter is going to mash. And here's why. The dude's got pop. Okay? He had 6 home runs and 121 at-bats. He had 30 home runs down in the minors before he got up last year. That's a total of 36 home runs across 3 different levels in 2022. He had 3 home runs in 51 plate appearances in spring training. That averages out about 17 in that bat, or 1 home run for every 17 at bats. So let's project 575 at bats for Kerry Carpenter this year. That's a total of 34 home runs. And that's going to be my bold prediction. Kerry Carpenter is going to lead the team in home runs with 34. And we're going to be really happy that they decided to keep him up from day one. He won't see the minor leagues again because he's just going to hit, and hit. Now, it's opening day today, and it's a beautiful time. The Tigers are taking on the Rays, so make sure you check out our series preview, which dropped about an hour ago over on DetroitSportsNation.com. The Tigers are taking on Shane McClanahan. They'll release their lineup here pretty soon, and when they do, it's going to be something to look forward to. Because I know I'm rooting for him. I know you're rooting for him because we are part of the best fan base in America. Yeah, they may be the lovable losers right now, but hopefully by August, they're on track to win 73 to 76 games. We'll be like, okay, this is good. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to be back with you on Monday for another episode of The Corner. Make sure that you have liked and subscribed to our YouTube channel. Pound that bell for notifications when our content drops. And make sure you like and share this video as well so everybody can take part in the best Tigers coverage around. This has been The Corner. I'm AJ Reilly. And as always, go Tigers.